Hello, hello, hello. It's Stephanie here from HMO Heaven again. And we are doing Ask the Angels live at 5. And it's all your rent to rent questions answered. And we've had some amazing questions in tonight. Rent to rent is a great strategy and it can really transform your life. But if you're stuck at the moment and you can't get started, then I think these questions and their answers will really help you to get going. Nicky, I can see that you're on this live. Could you please share the video from HMO Heaven page and then share it onto HMO Heroes so that it comes live in there? Oh, Nicky's put a thumbs up. Normally, she's not very good with Facebook, so I usually get the questions, how do you share? Okay, so hopefully this will then pop up on the HMO Heroes Facebook group as well. So if you have questions as we go through tonight, ask them in the comments, and I've got control of my scroll bar this time, so I will be able to see them. Ask them in the comments, and I'll either answer them tonight or I will come back to them and come on live again. Okay, so if you're interested in more after this, hold tight for the end of this video where I'll be explaining how you can work with us a little bit more if that's something that's of interest to you. So let us get right in there with the first questions. Now, I've grouped the questions together because there's two types of questions today. There's some questions are about getting deals and some questions are about contracts. And I know that contracts really do fox people, so I know you'll get a lot of value out of that part of this evening. So first of all, let's start off with Mike Cohan's question, and it is, would you add a getter? Oh, sorry, that's the wrong one. He's asked more than one. How best to work with estate agents? And I think this is something that a lot of people do struggle with. But the main thing is that you know that you can give them what they want, which is to pay the rent on time, to look after the property, and to pay the rent on time, to look after the property, and to help them get paid. So basically what you need to do is develop your relationships, see them regularly, get to know them, apart from the property side of things, get to know them as a person, and show them what you're doing and show them that you can help. The main thing is to get across that you will do what you say you will when you say you will do it. So that when you say you're going to call them, you call them. When you say you're going to send them an email, you send them an email. So they come to see you as a reliable person who's going to help them do what they want to do, which, yes, they want to get the property let out. Yes, they want the property looked after. But most of all, they are a business as well. So they want to help their bottom line. If you can show a letting agent how you're going to help them get their bottom line covered more easily with less work, then obviously they're going to partner with you. But sometimes it does take a while to bring that up. So my action tips really to help you make this happen are to go in regularly, or at least go in at least at the start, and then call up regularly, find out what the property's on, have a little chat with them. Maybe you're both into football, maybe you've both got a family. Find those, what they called, points of interest that you both agree on, and use those as well so that you can build a relationship beyond just being just about the properties. Okay, so basically, yeah, keep going in there, be persistent. What I would say is when you first go out to the agents, you'll learn which agents are warm to rent and which are cold. Okay, and once you know that, only deal with the warm ones. So maybe you try out 20 or 30 agents in your area and about 6 are warm to the idea, and the door is open. So just deal with those 6, and weekly or fortnightly go in and see what properties are on, see any HMOs, let them know exactly the type of property that you're looking for that works for you in your area, and build up that relationship weekly or fortnightly. You will get deals. If there's a way for them to make money working with you, then they will do. So you just need to show them that that would be a good thing for you, and that it's a low risk strategy, because a lot of the times they might not want to work with you if they foresee the risk as being higher than the reward. So stick in there and keep working with them. So that was for you, Mike. Let me know if there's still gaps in your knowledge after that. Now, next question is from Jordan Baldwin. Thanks for this, Jordan. And the question is, how to build up rapport on a cold call. Now, this one is when Jordan is calling the landlords on Spare Room about renting out their properties. Now, remember, Jordan, and anyone who's doing this, landlords will be suspicious because they get so many calls. Their property's on Spare Room, they're looking for tenants, and they get so many calls from agents. So already there's sort of a bit of a barrier there that makes it a little bit harder. There's a hurdle for you to get over. So I think first thing is just know that, and know that you will have to be persistent. A lot of people are not going to want to speak to you. So the first thing is call up to solve their problem. They want their property rented out. That's what you want to do. Know that you can add value to them, and do your research beforehand about their specific property. Look at the pictures online, understand it. Is it all empty? Is it just a couple rooms? And if there's a rental, I mean, put it all in the spreadsheet beforehand, so you know what price you would give. If it was all ready to go and in perfect condition, what rental would you give? Because then once you get on the phone, the main question that well, first of all, there'll be some landlords who won't speak to you. Like if you called me about a rent to rent, obviously I'm not going to be interested. So many landlords are going to be in that category. Just be aware of that and just know that that's going to happen, and don't let that put you off. Then when you get a landlord who is actually a self-managing landlord, then you want to have a chat with them and see how you can solve their problems. You might not be able to. So if you go on to rent and they do want you to give you the rent, last week I explained that you're going to do everything, pay the bills and pay them. You're going to meet or exceed the net rent that they're currently receiving. So that might pique their interest and they want to know what that rent would be. And then you say, well, can I come around to do a viewing and I can let you know what the rent will be? Well, if that doesn't work, if that doesn't wash and they're not interested and they don't want you to come and do a viewing, they want you to let them know over the phone, you can then let them know the figure that you've worked out, which is what you would pay them if their property was in perfect moving condition up to your standards. You can let them know that figure. And then obviously once you've been there and you've seen that there is work to do, or to bring it up to standard, either he can pay for it or you can pay for it and reduce the rent. So that's a nice way to work on the spare rooms. I think you've got to expect that a lot of people are not going to be interested because you could be dealing with other agents there on Spare Room. And as somebody else pointed out on the actual page, what they're wanting is individual tenants. They're not wanting agents. So you're putting yourself in a sort of pushing uphill situation when you're calling people on Spare Room. So I hope that helps. Any other points, just let me know. And I'll just say a quick hello to who I can see we've got online with us today. So Richard Parks, hey. Lois, I've got one of your questions in a while. Joel Greening and Steve Ambler, hello guys. And even Nicky Taylor, she doesn't normally watch these. So great to see you guys all on. And if any others of you are watching, do give me a thumbs up. Oh, I can see I've got 2 comments. All right, okay, great. So now we're going on to the problem of contracts, and we have a question from Matt Norris. Matt, are you watching? I don't know if you're on. Oh, we've got a couple of hellos. That's nice. And we've got a third one. Oh, that's Nicky's thumbs up. Okay, so Matt Norris. This is Matt's question. Hi, that's Joel. Hi, Stephanie. Contracts! Exclamation mark. To touch on a previous question I asked, what is the correct type of contract to use for a rent-to-rent with the estate agent or with the landlord? And as was highlighted, there are differences of opinions about what should be used. In other forums, it seems people are using corporate lets. Thanks. Oh, Matt Norris is on. Hi, Matt. Okay, so this is the answer, Matt. Basically, in legal terms, to know the definitive answer, then it would have to be tested through the courts. So at the moment, with rent to rent, people use, there's an agreement within rent to renters, that there's an agreement which is a hybrid between an AST, which is for a single tenant, and a company-led or commercial lease. There's a hybrid of that, which is a rental agreement which you draw up with your solicitor, and the owner gives to their solicitor, and you both sign up to it. So that is what the accepted norms are. So that rental agreement is what you would draw up, and you can either buy them off the peg from other rent-to-rent trainers, or you can have your own made up with a solicitor. So that is the accepted way to go about things. There are risks to it, of course, because it hasn't been tested, but most of us who are operating wouldn't want to be testing things through the court anyway. So it's just up to the level of risk that you're willing to accept, whether, sorry, whether you want to use an off-the-peg agreement through a trainer, which many people are doing, or whether you want to have your own agreement written up that maybe that gives you a little bit more peace of mind. Now, what we do, we did get ours written up by a solicitor, and ours is actually a commercial lease. And that is to give us extra protections which are not offered by the other type of agreement. So, for example, with the commercial lease, the lease sticks with the property, so it's not just with the owner. So for example, if the owner died, the lease would pass on, and if the owner sold, the lease would also pass on. And it also gives us a few other protections which I had written down beforehand, which it allows us, we don't normally do this, to put a note of interest on the title deeds of the property. And our contract also helps with one of the things that I see coming up quite a lot in groups, which is where a landlord won't or can't do emergency work that's needed. For example, a boiler I saw today on a Facebook group. Someone's landlord wouldn't fix a boiler and is insisting that some minor fix that hasn't worked is enough and that they should pay for the works that are needed. So our contract allows for the fact that if after correspondence the landlord won't do the works, that we can do the works and claim the money back from the rent. Now, this is something we would never do because contracts are always the last resort. You want to manage your relationships with your landlords and your tenants just on the basis of, good relationships and communication rather than on contracts. But the contract is there as the last resort, and so everything that we want to protect ourselves again and the protections that we want to give to our landlords, it's all in that contract, and that contract was specially drawn up for us. So, and we would go through all of the issues that you need to bear in mind, whatever contract you've got, just so you can make sure that all of those are in. So if you're investing heavily into somebody's property, for example, not everyone does this and you don't have to do this. We have invested reasonably heavily into some of our contracts. So that's why we looked into getting these leases specially drawn up that are going to give us more protection, and that protects the landlords. They protect both sides, because we do insist that our landlords also take legal advice about the contracts before they sign it. So I hope that's answered your question, Matt. The accepted norm is the rental agreement, which is a hybrid of an AST and a commercial lease. We use a commercial lease, but that's because of the specific market we work in, where all of the properties that we work with are licensed HMOs, and that might not work for every circumstance. So the rental agreement is your best bet at the moment. Okay, any more questions? Any follow-ups on that? Matt, just let me know. The other thing you need to do to make sure the contract's not the only thing, you need to make sure that your business is actually set up in the correct way to enable you to enforce your contract if need be. So, for example, are you a member of the ICO? Have you got professional indemnity insurance? Are you members of organisations that give free legal advice like the FSB? There are checklists that you go through when you set up your business. They don't take long, they're inexpensive, to make sure that you set up your business right in the first place. The contract's not the only thing that you need to take into account. Okay. Now, next question. We've got Philip Staramola and Matt Norris both wanted to know, in a rent deal with an agent involved, what type of contract do you give the agent? Now, this is a great question. And the reason why you're probably asking this question is because you've heard so many people using all different types of contracts, including ASTs, corporate lets, as you said earlier, Matt, corporate lets and stuff that's contracts that are written up by the letting agent. Now, people have worked with those contracts and they haven't had problems, but if it came to court, those would be difficult, unenforceable, because an AST is for an individual tenant and it's not for a company. And a corporate let doesn't allow you to do what you need to do, i.e. to sublet. So people have just adapted those slightly and worked with that. That is okay if that's what they want to do. What we would do is, if we were working with an agent, the agent wants to get paid their fee. That's the bottom line. So we would have our contract with the landlord, and then we would have a contract with the agent that says that we're going to pay them a fee, whatever the agreement is, whether it's a percentage or a flat fee for the term of that agreement, and also for the term of any subsequent agreements with that landlord for that property. I think that's the way that gets around it, that gives you the security you need, especially if you're investing significantly. But the realpolitik is that if people want to work with agents, they can't always work that way. Where we've worked with agents, we've always done it on introductions only, so we've not had that sandwich situation. So that's the answer to that one, Phillips. Any further follow-ups, let me know in the comments. So Mike Cohan said, would you add a get-out clause to the management agreement with the owner? Yes, we would. So Mike, the get-out clause is for one side only, and that is so that if their property in some respect becomes un-HMOable for whatever reason, if government policies change, if HMO licensing changes and their property no longer qualifies, or anything like that, then we can give the property back, because we can no longer do what we've contracted to do, which is to multi-let the property. So we our opt-out is if that becomes the case. If something unexpected happened to the house where it was multi-lettable, again we would be able to exit that policy. Now, we don't give the owners a 6-month break clause, because if we've invested and we're recouping that investment over a period of 5 years, then we can't exit at 6 months. But the sellers have the comfort that they know that if we do not deliver what we said we're going to deliver, then they can exit. So if we don't pay the guaranteed rent, if we don't look after the property under the terms of the lease and all of that stuff, then they can exit. But so far, obviously we've never needed to exit a contract, and none of our landlords have wanted to exit either. So the next one is Melanie Garrigue, and she says, hi Stephanie, how do you choose the right solicitor to write up a contract? Do you walk into any solicitors that deals with property? I would say to deal with a commercial property solicitor, a solicitor that's used to dealing with commercial property, because residential property solicitors are not always aware of all the different ways that these contracts can be set up. Before you go into it, you need to know from other companies what the important things are, what are the things that come up during the course of contracts that you need to protect yourself against, what are the things that are the landlord's concerns that they're concerned to protect themselves against, although their solicitors, the landlord solicitor, will look at that side. So you look at the things that you need to protect yourself against, and you make sure that all of those things are in the contract. So that's how I would choose. You speak to people who've used. Solicitors tend to work on their own time scale. We've used several over the course of business, different conveyances, different contracts, and they tend to work to their own time scale. So I think it's good to get a referral to make sure that you know that you're working with somebody who can deliver what you're looking for. Okay. And Lois has asked, okay, my question is, what should be included in an investor funds contract? Should it be drawn up legally? Well, yes, definitely should be drawn up legally. And solicitors are inexpensive compared with what happens when contracts break down. So again, like I was saying before, you need to work out what are the things that could go wrong. Speak to people who've been in JVs before of the type that you're having, and just see what are the issues that they've had. Often these issues are to do with the exit from the deal and what that looks like. They're to do with what constitutes success. So the levels of service for a refurbishment, or the rental values, or the voids, or so. It's about what constitutes success within the contract and the exit. Those are two crucial areas where people do come a cropper. So I think it's worthwhile to agree your heads of term with your JV partner, and then you get a solicitor to put that all into a contract for you, so that you're protected and your JV partner's protected, and more critically, you both have a real clarity about what's expected from both of you. So Matt has asked, seems like I better speak to a solicitor then, a bit concerning that people are using corporate let contracts for R2R. Well, Matt, because nothing has been tested, and people have sort of not come a cropper under it, that's what they're doing. Yeah, have you started, Matt, in rent-to-renting? I mean, I would personally speak to a solicitor and get my own contract drawn up, but as I say, you can also buy them, this sort of rental agreement contract, which people seem to be using without problems. Okay, yeah, so that's all of the questions, actually. So just before that's the quickest one ever, isn't it? So if you've got anything else, you can just ask me. We don't need to make these all into epic, stewy and full-length feature films. This one could be a little trailer. So just wanted to let you know as well, I mentioned it last time, we've written all our systems together that say everything about how to set up the business the right way, how to do your contract, how to get the deals, and everything you need, all of our tips, tricks and templates to get your first deal in the bag. Because Rent to Rent is such a great tool. We started 2.5 years ago, I think it is, and we've got 12 properties that we've already got online on these 5-year contracts. The very first contract we did for two properties, yes, we did for 3 years, and that landlord has just signed up with us again for a further 5 years, which is fantastic. So we'll have had by the time 8 years with that property, and we did do quite a big refurb on that one, so that's great that that we've got that going forward. And that single property alone is in 6 figures on the income. So what I want to share with you is how that can really change your life. And lots of people do ask me, and I get my inbox does get quite full of people asking me different queries, how to choose their area, how to choose their area, things like this, actually, contracts, how to get the deals. And I wanted to be able to share what we know rather than always referring them on to other people, because I want to be able to deliver that value and share what we know with people and help other people to do what we've done. And so we've finally done that. We've got it all written down. We'll be starting next January with the Get Your First Deal course. And the very first course we do, it's an online course, but the very first one we do, I'm going to be in it with people every week. So you'll get me online every week, going through each module of the course and all the steps that you need to take. So it's a real opportunity, because we going forwards after that very first one, we'll just have it as an online thing and we won't be in it ourselves. So I'll put the link up so you can register if you want to hear about that when we do start it up. So that's Get Your First Deal, and I'll put the link next to it, and you can let me know if you want to be involved. But thank you all so much for being on with me tonight. It's great to have you there, and great to have that little correspondence and chat. I just want to say hi to Geraldine, who's joined, and Matt's just saying he's early days speaking to agents and sourcing the properties. That's great news, Matt. I look forward to hearing as you move forward and get your first deal. And hey, Clive. Clive's been doing it for years. You could be teaching, you could be sitting this side of the camera, really, couldn't you? Right, okay, guys, I'm not going to lengthen this out. I look forward to seeing you next week. Bye for now.